Kia ora everyone, welcome to These Guys Got Next, our NBA basketball podcast where we dissect the NBA and deliver our takes and analysis from the bench. I'm Elijah Fa'afiu, he's Ravindu Pathirana. Ravi, how's everything on your end?
Yeah, man. Raptors last week ended our fantasy league and walked away with the
I knew
dub,
you were going
so
to bring
pretty
that
rapt
up.
about
Yeah.
that. Have to, man. First time. So rapt about that. How are you?
Good. Firstly, well deserved on that fantasy win.
Thank you.
Secondly, I've just come from a half marathon, so my legs are gone, but my mouth is still moving, so that's all we need for the pod.
Mate, this
But
is
it's
a
fine.
second post
Yeah,
marathon pod, is
I
it?
mean, I've only done 2 half marathons, and both times I've come back to record an episode. So the dedication, it's always at
Love it.
100 with me. But yeah, other than our own personal lives, there's plenty to discuss in the NBA. Let's just get right into things. We might have just had the game of the year, I feel like, or the game of the season. Nuggets, T-Wolves in double overtime. Minnesota wins 140-139. Heaps to discuss. I guess the main thing we should bring up is Nikola Jokic, 61 points triple double, which I think is the most points for a triple double in NBA history. 61, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. He did everything that you could possibly do to help this team win. Unfortunately, things did not work out at the end in regards to. The finger's going to be pointed at Russell Westbrook because of those players at the end. Right, he missed a layup on one end. He fouled Nikhil Alexander-Walker on the other. Unfortunate, but I mean, Rav, like how did you sort of see this game and some of the performances in that contest?
I think you're right. Probably is game of the season. I mean, we've had a few like elite games, but this probably caps it off. And let's hope that the rest of April can bring in something like this. But yeah, man, like look, Jokic missed a free throw down the stretch, which just clinched that 61 point triple double, but could have made it a bit more comfy at the end. And was hitting some big shots. Like man, some of those like you watch, especially probably like the fourth quarter onwards. Some of those the shots that he was making was just unbelievable. The footwork, the way he was able to just make and create those shots as well, like so good. Shout out to Aaron Gordon. Man's had some big time threes down the stretch to help keep these guys in the game. Just when you thought the Wolves were going to run away with it, but no, Gordon had other plans. But yeah, unfortunately, Russell Westbrook had his Brandon Jennings moment, which is a bit gutting. But yeah, man, it's just sometimes it's just the way the basketball cards are dealt, and yeah, just got to play them.
It's rough for Russ because he's had such a nice season in Denver, carving out his role in that squad and finding his fit alongside Jokic. But then a stretch like this makes us sort of remember the downside to having a Russell Westbrook on your team, and he's gonna want to move on from such brain explosions. He bounced back next game. He had 30, 11, and 6 against the Spurs, even though the Spurs ended up winning. Anthony Edwards, you brought him up. I think it was amazing, like superstar players, their ability to be quiet in those first few quarters, and then fourth quarter onwards, just come out and just make the big shots. Like those are what the big time players do, and Anthony Edwards is a big time player. And post game, like funny quote. I feel like he says this a lot, but he says that might have been the best game of my life that I've been a part of. And Nikola Jokic, he might be the best basketball player I've ever seen close up, beside myself. That's what Anthony Edwards said, which is very Anthony Edwards of him to say. But yeah, I mean, just game recognized game there, and I'd love to see a 7-game series between these two sides, like we saw this last season.
Last season, yeah. Do you reckon
Why
this
not
is
run it?
probably one of the best rivalries so far in the NBA?
I mean, it's up there. Like every time these two teams collide, like there's always something happening. There's like fireworks, or there's just great basketball being played. Like Jokic and Ants are both stepping up for their teams. Like, yeah, I mean, I'd love to see these two teams run it back. Why not run it back? And that's all I want to see. But what a game! If you haven't seen highlights, definitely check it out. I should mention with the T-Wolves, they were missing a couple of players in that game because we'll mention this briefly. The Timberwolves and the Pistons, the game prior, there was a bit of a scrap that went on. A few players got
Just one.
ejected there. Let's just list the players. We got Isaiah Stewart, no
Of
surprises.
course, yeah,
First
Beef
name,
Stew.
Beef Stew. Dante DiVincenzo, Nas Reed, Ron Holland, Marcus Sasser, and then I think a couple of coaches got ejected as well for getting involved. Um, did you see like do you have a side like whose fault was it? Who started the whole thing? How did you sort of see that scrap?
Mate, it's just beef shoe, man. He's just in the middle of everything. Like,
Yes,
who
no.
else? Who would you point it to? Like, I don't know if you've seen the. I guess there's a couple of angles of the footage that just have surfaced, and man, like you just see how scary he is, just like trying to like reach at Dante DiVincenzo while he was like on the crowd, and then he turns around because Nas Reed's on the floor, and he just turns around and goes at him, like, I don't know what type of issues the man's got, man, but he's got to rope it in. Jeez.
And then at the end of the game, we had Ant and Nikhil Alexander Walker trolling the Pistons by doing their little shimmy celebration after they won. So nice way to throw a bit of shade there for those guys. I do want to say back to the T Wolves Nuggets game, Nikhil Alexander Walker hitting those game winning free throws. Shea Gilgis Alexander's cousin. So, if you want to find a link between SGA and Jokic, he's got one of
There
his
you go.
cousins sort of doing the work and getting one over Jokic there. So the MVP rivalry is still strong. A couple of other games to bring up. Firstly, the Warriors Grizzlies. Steph Curry, amazing performance. 50 points on 12 threes, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 steals. Just appreciate the greatness we have in regards to Steph. Um, and then Ja Morant, not a bad performance from him, 36 points, 6 rebounds. So he's sort of finding his feet, I feel, under his new coach, Thomas Asalo. But there's a little bit of back and forth that was going on, Rav, wasn't there, in regards to. Well, I don't know who you want to bring up first, but maybe the Steph Curry, Desmond Bain
Yeah, I'm
little
just gonna go
incident
to
there.
Steph Curry, man, because man of the moment, right? Like that was just an unbelievable performance. Like I think the thing that impresses me the most, like him playing defense at this age, getting down and dirty, like 5 steals on the night, which was unbelievable. But yeah, let's talk about that. Desmond Bain kind of chipping away at Curry, but it was really cool to see Curry kind of like show that mentality of, "No, I'm not going to get involved in a scrap. I'm just going to go, cool off." That sort of that veteran mindset comes into play. But that was entertaining. But yeah, I can let you talk about the other incident, which is
We'll touch on that.
even
We'll
more
touch on that
entertaining.
soon. But in regards to Steph, the defense side of things, yeah, like when you've got guys like Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green on your team, that definitely lifts your game up defensively. And I think Steph's definitely been encouraged by having those guys around him. With that 50-point game, he now has more 50-point games than LeBron all time, 15 to 14. But don't worry, LeBron fans. You can just say that Steph has more single digit games than LeBron, which is 58 to 8, which is a wild margin, which makes sense as well because LeBron's got the little 10-point streak going on. He's had pretty much his entire majority of his career. But to the other incident, yes, Ja Morant. Uh, I don't know how I feel about this because given his history with such weaponry, aka guns, him doing the gun gesture against the Warriors first, and then he did in the next game against the Heat, which we'll touch on soon, gets given a 75K fine for doing it. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the NBA sort of singling him out because he has that history. Like, do you sort of feel that Ja's being, I don't know, done dirty a little bit, or do you think it was right for him to get punished for those gestures?
I think it's warranted. Because again, history has a part to play. Ja has is a. I mean, this is just maybe me, maybe my upbringing. I was never brought around guns and stuff. But Ja has a role player. He is a role player, and a lot of kids look up to him because his flashy style of play, and he's does unbelievable dunks and almost dunks. So I think it is warranted because the NBA maybe sees a bigger picture, and he's I guess a marketable player with his playstyle. So just want to keep him in the good light. So yeah, I think that is warranted. He is young as well, so just again, we spoke about this like way early in the season, but I think that's warranted, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Maybe it's the NBA's way of sort of keeping him in line because he has such a high influence in the game. So that's a fair point. I just do. I also feel on the other side that because of his history, he is being because he's not the only person in the league who does the gun gestures. Like so many other players in the league,
Mikal
after they
Bridges.
make a three, yeah, after they do the three, they do some sort of gesture. It may not be as obvious, but there's definitely different varieties of the gun celebration or the finger guns, whatever you want to call it. But I just think because it's Ja and he has the history, I think that why not just go for the guy who has been suspended and fined in the past for being around guns or making gestures. So
Yeah.
that's sort of how I think see things. But
And
anyway,
I
oh,
think
actually,
Buddy
we should.
Hield, I was just
I
going to
was
say, Buddy
yeah.
Hield might have just
You,
instigated as well. Like,
I was just gonna say he didn't even Ja didn't even make the first move. It was
no.
Buddy Hield who showed his hand first.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just really funny to watch. It's just, reciprocated, thought he was boys with Buddy Hield, and the NBA's like, nah, not today.
Well, now we've got Buddy Hield to thank for Ja getting himself into this little mess. But anyway, he did bring up the gesture again against the Miami Heat. But let's just bring up his game winner against Miami, the buzzer beating fadeaway jumper, snapping the Heat's 6 game win streak, but also giving Thomas his first win as a head coach, which I think they needed such a win because they've been sliding down the Western Conference standings. What did you sort of make of the actual game winner
I don't know,
itself?
question mark of a push off, maybe, because you just see the left hand kind of come out. But again, it's in the moment. Refs got to make a call, and the refs tend to hold their whistle in those close moments. But yeah, it was an interesting comment saying a pigeon was guarding me. Like Killer wears like 7'2", man. Like, well, it's a pretty tall pigeon. I don't know what type of pigeons are there in Memphis.
I'm not sure what he was referencing there.
Yeah,
My question is, why the hell was Khalil Ware? Why did they do the switch with Ware onto Ja? Like you've got Davion Mitchell's nearby, you've got a couple other guys
Wiggins.
you'd prefer, you'd
Yeah,
prefer to take Ja, or you double Ja and you force someone else to make the shot because Ja was going well in that game. Ja's going to take the final shot, so I guess a little bit questionable on Miami's end, but a much needed play and a much needed confidence boost for Memphis, especially with the playoffs just around the corner.
yeah. And also, like, this is kind
Steph,
of good because I was just going to mention, bro, like, there's some reports that was coming out, about Taylor Jenkins' offensive play style, which, Jar's not been a fan of. So again, yeah, adds to the career, no, sorry, not career, just a confidence boost for those guys and hopefully get them back on track in time for the playoff.
yeah, I mean, I think now with Thomas in charge, like hopefully we see a lot more touches with the ball, a lot more pick and roll action, which sort of we need. Well, Ja needs that to sort of unlock the best of himself. And with playoffs coming up, they need Ja at his best if they're going to be competitive in the Western Conference. Because when you've got guys like Steph and LeBron and the Warriors and the Lakers going at it, that is going to be tough to top those teams, especially the Warriors. Now they're 20-2 with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry in the lineup, and one of those wins this week was a win over the Lakers, 123-116. It's always amazing to see Steph and LeBron go head to head again and again. We got to appreciate having these guys while they're around because once those two move on, I don't know who the next great rivalry is or who the next two great players are going head to head. But geez, where do we sort of begin with this contest? How do you sort of assess
I
this?
think, the two greats combined for 70, so that could be a start. Steph at 37 and 6 and LeBron 33, 9 and 5. Just, I don't know how a 40-year-old does it. I'm at this age. And then obviously big three chipping in for the Lakers as well, but unfortunately not enough because Brandon Podemski had a career night, 28, 8 and 6 on 8 of 10 3-point shooting, which is unreal. But yeah, man, like, it was interesting to see. Like, I was just doing some stats and stuff, as I tend to enjoy. The amount of drives the Warriors have per game. So they're averaging about 40.3 drives per game. And like breaking this down, you see like there's no like anchor in that Lakers lineup, like a defensive anchor in the paint, like AD was there. And I was like, okay, is there like a comparison between before the trade, after the trade? So that, of course, given they're in the West, they played each other 4 times this season. Christmas game, 38 drives by the Warriors, 47 on the first. Sorry, 25th of Jan, and 38 on the 6th of Feb. So which is a bit lower, but 51 last night. So way like almost 11 over the average that they're doing. So again, these guys aren't afraid to drive in, and then the way they're shooting the threes, like the second highest 3-point attempted in the league. So drive and kicks, just a lethal combination for these guys. Like Steph's averaging 40% on threes, man, on 11 attempts a game, and there's 5 other players attempting more than 4 threes, shooting over 37%. So they're in good hands when they come up against a team who doesn't have a defensive anchor. So I
Yeah,
think
and
that's probably one of the biggest takeaways from that game.
yeah, and a couple of things. I think that might be the best way to beat the Lakers because they have such a lack of bigs in their squad since AD left. Driving in and attacking. If you got some players who are not afraid to take it into the paint or take it inside, then that's probably the best way to take down the Lakers. So the Warriors may have unlocked something there in that contest. And just on the Warriors, like 20-2 with Jimmy Butler and Steph is great. We're gonna see soon how this translates into the playoffs. And like obviously Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy, like we know
Yeah,
how
oh
amazing
man,
he
do you know
is.
there's those 5 players I mentioned shooting over
Yeah,
37%. Jimmy's not on that 5. He's
yeah,
averaging 2.2 threes a game. So like when playoff time comes, it's another player that just level up these guys. So looking forward to this.
yeah. That's the thing because that 20-2 stat amazes me because Jimmy hasn't put up such big numbers. So he's obviously his impact is more, I guess, off the ball, like what he's doing defensively or what he's doing from a leadership standpoint or whatnot, sort of telling players to calm down. But for the Warriors to sort of excel or go far in the West, they're going to rely on some of their younger crop of players, like essentially the future of the
Yeah,
Warriors, like guys like Pajemski, guys like Moses Moody, Jonathan
Kuminga.
Kaminga.
Yeah.
You know, those guys are
And
going to be
Quentin
key.
Post, bro, shout out to him too. Like,
Quinton
man's
Post,
like,
yes.
yeah, 4 threes a game as a 7 footer. So and shooting at 40%. So unbelievable.
So those are the guys, like, yes, they're the future of the franchise, but they're going to have to be the present, at least for this playoff run. So big ask for those role players. But they definitely have shown this week, especially Pajemski. Big couple of games from him this week, not just in the game against the Lakers, but also the game against the Nuggets, which we'll briefly touch on. Pajemski put up 26, 8, and 6. But really, the matchup was Steph versus Jokic. Steph putting up 36, Jokic with 33. And the Warriors got the dub there, 118 to 104. But I guess just great to have some great, awesome matchups this week with Steph and LeBron, Steph and Jokic. Um, yeah, it's just great to see all those guys in action. So I'll just quickly touch on that. Giannis, what a game from him. Like we were asking, how is this team going to go forward without Damian Lillard? You probably don't have to worry when Giannis Antetokounmpo is on your team. 35 points, 20 assists, which might be the big telling or the big standout point from the stat line, and 17 rebounds against the Sixers. Uh, Geez, how did you see that? That's an amazing performance from Giannis.
It just, I don't know, bro, just watching that game back, like, it just seems like he was in flow state. Just the reads that he was making, especially with the dimes, like, just speechless. Like, he's always been an underrated passer. But 20 points, I'm really glad that the rest of the team, like, stepped up and hitting those three, or hitting the shots that they were passed to. So, especially in Dame's absence. So, this was a huge confidence booster for the Bucks, just knowing that there are guys that can step up. But again, Giannis just like, no, not a problem. I was here before Dame, I will be here after Dame. So, this is what he's doing.
And he's just another player, like I mentioned before, appreciating guys like Steph and LeBron and Jokic. Giannis is another player we need to appreciate. He deserves all the flowers he gets for some of literally the freakish stuff he does on the court. And this week was just another reminder of that. So, I mean, geez, imagine if SGA and Jokic weren't having the seasons that they've been having this season. Like we'd be talking about Giannis. You
Oh,
know, not just the end of
100%.
the MVP convo, but just in general, like of how great he is. So, yeah,
I think even for the
awesome.
past few years, man, he's just having really dominant seasons. But unfortunately, some Serbian horse racer seems to be good at basketball.
Seems
She's
to be
getting swept under the
slightly
rug.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think I read something that Dame Lillard positive reports that they're hoping to get him back maybe around playoff time or maybe just before the playoffs, which would be huge for the Bucks in their Eastern Conference. Speaking of the Eastern Conference, Boston Celtics, they seem to be sort of hitting their stride a little bit. They had a 9-game win streak, but that was snapped by the Heat. But they've pretty much won quite a bit as of late. But the other reason I want to bring them up is that they broke the NBA record for most threes in the season, passing the Warriors' mark of 1,363, which was set just a few years ago. And there's still 5 games remaining in the season. I
I
guess
mean, you'd hope that happened, right? Because averaging 33s a game, like,
yeah, you would think they would make a lot of those attempts that
yeah.
they put up. And then Derek White like broke the Celtics record for most threes in the season, passing Isaiah Thomas. So I guess with the Celtics, I feel like we haven't really got delved deep into the Celtics, given that they are the defending champions and they deserve a bit of love heading into the playoffs. But they seem to be sort of hitting their stride at just about the right time.
Yeah, man, I think it's. I mean, first of all, shout out to IT, Mr. Fourth Quarter. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, even when you look at the media, it's just so overwhelming in terms of the SGA versus Jokic matchups. And the Cavs out of the East, Rockets out of the West, Thunder, the great season they're having. But for some reason, everyone's forgetting that Boston are the defending champs and should be like they're having a great season. It's like the Giannis to Jokic comparison. Just because
Yeah.
some other teams having a greater season doesn't mean we can't ignore these guys are still having a hell of a season compared to the rest of the league.
And that's given that they've had guys that have come in and out of the lineup quite a bit this season. Like Jalen Brown's been sidelined a little bit. Porzingis is probably the big one as well. Like once he's healthy, that's a huge plus for the Celtics. And then you still got Drew Holiday. Maybe he's had a bit of a down year this season, but come playoff time, he's gonna come up with some huge moments. Derek White, the sharpshooter that he is now that we've just discovered this week. And then Jason Tatum, who again is another guy that needs to be given his flowers because he's such a great player and he's the guy that's leading the charge for um, Boston. But they've also got some guys on the bench like Payton
Yeah, I was
Pritchard.
going to say Peyton Pritchard, man, deserves flowers too. Like having probably his best season in a while, ever actually. Probably MIP candidate, 100%. So
Sam,
yeah,
and then
let's
you got
see.
guys like a Sam Hauser,
Luke
also
Cornett.
Luke Cornett. So they've got a nice bench there. And like once those guys are healthy, then they are going to be the team to watch in the Eastern Conference. And a healthy Celtics is probably the best shot at taking down the Cavs if there is a team in the Eastern Conference. Speaking of, well, I guess this is sort of linked to the Eastern Conference, but OKC seems to be the Eastern Conference's, I don't
Achilles
know,
heel,
yeah, I
if
was gonna
that's
say
the
daddy,
word.
um, but hey, 29-1 against the Eastern Conference, which is an amazing record to have. They've beaten the single season record by a Western Conference team against the East, which is previously 2015-16 Warriors, 2006-7 Mavs, and the 1999-2000 Lakers, which their records were 27-3. Excuse me. I guess in regards to OKC, there's a lot of talk lately. Well, actually, there's been a lot of talk this season around SGA and his, I guess, him being a free throw merchant and him being a foul baiter and all the commentary around that. What do you sort of make of his game? Do you agree with those tags he's been given? Do you think it's just part of the game? Is that a skill that he sort of just like mastered? Like, what's your sort of take on all this around SGA?
I think it's a skill. Like, let's be honest, like we at first started speaking about this 2017, 2018 with James Harden, the way he was manipulating the rules. Like,
Yeah,
we saw how James Harden changed the game, right? Where the guys were able to get those fouls on any drives they make. But there was a video done recently on the stats of the number of players per drives per fouls. So among the league average, SGA is right on point. But just because he's driving more to the basket more than any other player, he's getting more fouls. So that's why it's highlighted more in the media and everywhere else. It's just he's just on league average, just doing it more than everyone else. Like
Yeah, no, I
there's
agree.
this,
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
and
If there's rules and someone is able to get around them or find a way to beat the rules, then you're just gonna make rules to sort of counter that. Like he's just taking advantage. He's just making the most of what the guidelines are around his game or around the NBA game. Just like James Harden did, SGA is doing it now. People can complain all they want, but just I don't know what are you gonna do? Complain to the NBA? Tell the NBA to change the rules around how they officiate fouls and
officiate.
all that. How the refs, you know. So yeah, I don't blame Shea. Like there's a reason he's an MVP candidate. That's part of the reason him getting so many free throw attempts or him getting to the line. But it's a skill that he's mastered, and I can't fault him for that. So
I mean, the ability of SGA, like when you watch him play, he just controls the speed of the game. Like you're playing at his speed when you're defending him. Like that is a massive factor in terms of drawing these fouls because the way he's able to change gears, speed up, slow down, like stop on a dime, it's just for a defender that's a nightmare. So fair enough, like like his I think who is it? His dad. He said this quote: "When I beat you and you can't
yeah,
recover and stand in front of me, like it's a foul." Like fair enough, it is. Like you've beat me, and I'm gonna try to stop you in any way I can. And if that's sending you to the free throw, and hope for the best option there, and I'm gonna do that.
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's you pretty much summed it up nicely there, Ralph. So we'll leave it there, and yeah, we got no problems with SGA being a free throw merchant or a foul beta, as he's been called this season. Houston Rockets, they're the only team to beat OKC and Cleveland this season, and they've beaten both teams twice. So something to keep an eye on come playoff time. They're another team that seems to be firing at just around the right time with playoffs around the corner. But the reason we're bringing up the Houston Rockets is because old mate Dylan Brooks has become the bad boy. We talked earlier this season about how he
Good
was
boy,
one of the
Dylan
only
Brooks.
Rockets yeah, how he was one of the only Rockets not to get ejected, and now this week he's been ejected. Um, Little tangle up with Kevin Durant and Nick Richards, and for yelling at the ref. He also got suspended for his 16th technical this season. Um, yeah, I mean, anything you want to add about bad boy Dylan Brooks or the bad boy Houston Rockets?
Mate, I think that night in the NBA, that's also the same night where the Pistons Wolves fight broke out. So
Oh,
so many people ejected.
so something was in
Something
the
in the
water.
air. Yeah,
Yeah,
something. But yeah, man, like this was pretty awesome. Like clinch the playoffs for the first time since 2020. And also there was a stat. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but the Rockets have had the most ejections since Ime Udoka joined the team in 2023. Like interesting stat to put out, and someone was like, "Oh, it's Black Air Force energy from the Houston Rockets." So yeah,
well,
there we go.
given Ime Udoka is the one coach I wouldn't want to fight because he's been involved in like fights or something when he was a player.
Is it MMA or
That
was it UFC or something like that? It was
no, that's Missoula.
that's Missoula.
Missoula's the guy that does something, one of the martial arts. Ime Udoka is the guy who had a scrap with like a whole. He was playing for Nigeria, and he tried to take on the whole one of the other African countries by himself in the locker room. So that stat about the Rockets having heaps of ejections and leading the league in ticks and all that since his arrival does not surprise me at all. We'll see if they can control their temper a little bit in the playoffs because playoffs as we know, can get a little bit fiery, and we'll see how a young Houston squad can handle all that. And finally, maybe just before we finish up with the quick fire, Anthony Davis. I just found this funny that he just got hurt again during the week. He got inadvertently hit in the face by Daniel Gafford. Still came back to hit the game-winning floater against the Atlanta Hawks. Finished that game with 34, 15, and 5 blocks. But the Mavs, they seem to be on the rise slowly in the Western Conference. 5-1 with AD. Their one loss was to the Nets earlier this week, but the Mavs, I think we may have sort of ridden them off a little bit prematurely. But now with AD back, they seem to be a team in the Western Conference play-on who could be one to watch. So we'll keep an eye out on them. Anything to add on the
I mean, I
Mavs?
was just
And
going to say I don't really have a lot of high hopes, man. Like Kyrie's out for the season, so that's your main, I guess, shot creator, shot maker, especially come playoff time. Not there. Dinwiddie is up and down, but let's see how much AD can take the team. It'll maybe like a Pelicans situation for AD where he's like the sole star in this lineup. So let's see how deep he can take it.
yeah, more especially with how bloodthirsty, or however you want to call it, it's a bloodbath out in the Western Conference. Like those seeds 3 to 8, I think, or
3 to 10, bro. I think so. Yeah, no, three
it's
to eight.
just
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Three to
yeah,
eight by like two
it's
games or
just
one game.
yeah, it's pretty tight. Like our Clippers are involved in that, so hopefully we get on the right side of the seedings. The Timberwolves are involved in that. Who else have you got? I mean, the Grizzlies have slid down, so they're a part of that now. Warriors are there, so
Kings.
yeah. So with the week to go, that's going to be a playoff race to watch, and we'll see what the playoff matchups look like this time next week when we do the next episode. But that's pretty much all we have time for. And as always, quick fire. We're going to finish things off with that. Rav, you ready to go?
Is it?
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Rav, Carmelo Anthony will be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. What is your all-time favorite moment or performances of his?
Oh, I'm a big fan of those summer runs that he did with Hoodie Mello, so that was huge.
Nice.
Eli, do you know Dwight Howard, D12, is also being inducted into the Hall of Fame. What's your favorite moment of him?
Superman dunk with the cape. It's
Love
iconic.
him.
Rav, define the Suns in one word.
Imploding.
Okay, you haven't done the Spencer Dinwiddie and and just said ass, bro. That's fine. Sorry, you go on.
Eli, yeah. Which playing team in the East has the best chance of making the Eastern Conference Finals?
I'd say Miami Heat based on recent form, but I'm not.
Hmm.
I don't have high hopes for any of those 4 teams. And Rav, what is your game of the week?
I'm going Clippers Rockets this week. How about you?
Okay, I'm going to go Clippers Rockets as well because I think that's quite important for
Yeah.
the Western Conference title race. And with that, that is our episode. Thank you so much, Rav, as always, and thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Spotify and all the other social media platforms, TikTok as well. But with that, we got next and Matiwa.